£230.25 per week is what Britain pays its retired citizens through the full new state pension, and that adds up to £11,973 a year. But the assumption is that you simply cannot live on the state pension alone anywhere in the UK. But when you pull up the actual rent data outside London and the southeast, a different picture starts to form. Towns exist across this country where the average rent sits at £549 a month, where crime rates run 60% below the national average, and where a full NHS hospital operates 10 minutes down the road. In those places, £11,973 a year doesn't just cover bills, it covers a life. This video ranks 12 towns across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, where a single pensioner on the state pension alone can genuinely make the numbers work. A strict financial filter applied to every town on this list, asking whether a mortgage-free pensioner could actually cover rent or ownership costs, council tax, energy, food, water, and transport on under £1,000 a month. Several of these towns sit inside UNESCO World Heritage Cities, and one holds the lowest crime rate of any police jurisdiction in the entire United Kingdom. Another has average rents so low they undercut parts of Eastern Europe. And the number one spot combines the cheapest rents in the country with a brand new hospital, a railway station, and Scotland's oldest working theatre. Every pound, every crime statistic, and every bus route matters in this breakdown. Whether you are watching for yourself, for a parent, or because you are starting to suspect your own retirement plan has a serious gap in it, the difference between the right town and the wrong one could amount to the difference between dignity and real financial hardship. Subscribe and leave a like so the algorithm will show me to you. Make sure you stay until the end, because what turned up at number 1 caught me off guard. Number 12. Stirling, Central Scotland. Stirling carries the highest price tag of any town on this list, and it earned a spot anyway because the quality of life here runs so high that leaving it off felt dishonest. Around 37,000 people live in this compact historic city, built beneath one of Scotland's most dramatic castles, with the Wallace Monument rising on the hill above and the University of Stirling feeding cultural energy into the town year-round. Glasgow sits 30 minutes away by train, Edinburgh 50 minutes, and services run frequently, which means you are connected to 2 major cities without paying anything close to their housing costs. Safety is where Stirling really starts to separate itself from the pack. The Scottish government records a crime rate of just 43.6 per thousand population, below the Scottish average, and down 17% over the last decade. uhomes.com placed Stirling among the top 10 safest locations in the entire UK for 2026. Forth Valley Royal Hospital at Larbert operates about 8 miles from the town centre as a modern facility, and Scotland's free personal care for over 65s and free prescriptions for everyone give retirees a genuine financial edge over England. Scottish council tax rates reinforce that advantage, with the Scotland average sitting at around £1,372 at Band D compared to £2,280 in England, and a single person in a Band A property could pay well under £1,000 per year. The catch is housing cost, and it's a serious one. Average rents in the Forth Valley area reach £880 per month according to the ONS, which would consume nearly the entire state pension. Stirling only works on that income alone if you own your home outright or receive pension credit and housing benefit to cover the gap. For a homeowner, though, the combination of ultra-low crime, low council tax, free personal care, free prescriptions, and 2 major cities within an hour makes Stirling one of the most livable retirement locations in Scotland. Getting the housing sorted is the hard part, and once that's done, everything else falls into place. Number 11. Skipton, North Yorkshire. When people try to describe why they love English market towns, the picture they paint usually looks a lot like Skipton. 16,700 people live at the gateway to the Yorkshire Dales, where one of England's best-preserved castles overlooks a medieval high street, a market runs 4 days a week, and the Leeds-Liverpool Canal threads through the centre. Rightmove's Happy at Home Index has repeatedly named it among the happiest places to live in Britain. CrimeRate.co.uk backs that reputation with a safety score of 83 out of 100, crime rates 41% below the Yorkshire and Humber average, and 31% below the England and Wales average. The surrounding Craven district recorded just 38.84 per thousand according to SCOS data, among the lowest in North Yorkshire, and the broader North Yorkshire Police Force area consistently ranks in the bottom 5 nationally for crime. Rail connects Skipton to Leeds in about 40 minutes, opening up a major city for shopping, healthcare, and culture, and the Carlisle Railway, one of England's most scenic lines, passes through as well. The affordability problem, though, is hard to ignore. Average house prices across North Yorkshire reach £272,000 according to the ONS, and Rightmove puts Skipton specifically at around £288,000. Rents across the area average £825 per month, and even a small one-bed comes in between £650 and £750, leaving almost nothing from a state pension payment. Pensioners who already own property here, or who can sell a home elsewhere and buy outright, land in a sweet spot. Selling a 3-bed in the southeast for $500,000 and buying a 2-bed cottage in Skipton for $200,000 leaves $300,000 in the bank, zero mortgage, and one of the safest towns in England as your address. Renting on the state pension alone, on the other hand, stretches the budget past breaking point no matter how appealing the view. Number 10. Berwick-upon-Tweed, Northumberland. England's northernmost town sits right on the Scottish border, with a population of about 12,000 Elizabethan town walls, a dramatic coastline, and a transport connection that nobody expects from a place this small. Berwick sits on the East Coast Main Line. Edinburgh reaches you in 50 minutes, Newcastle in 45, and London in about 3.5 hours direct, which gives a town of 12,000 people genuine access to two capital cities while everything around you feels like a quiet coastal painting. Northumberland as a whole falls well below national crime averages, and Berwick benefits from that pattern further thanks to its size and tight community. House prices average around £240,000 according to Rightmove, higher than County Durham or Carlisle, but still far below the national average of £295,000. Rents across Northumberland average £661 per month, with a one-bed in Berwick running between £500 and £600. The Northumberland coast holds area of outstanding natural beauty status. Holy Island sits nearby, and the Cheviot Hills stretch inland, all of which adds up to a setting that rewards anyone who values landscape and light. And then there's the healthcare question, which is a real one. Berwick's community hospital covers minor cases, but major A&E treatment requires a trip to the Borders General Hospital in Melrose about 40 minutes away, or to Newcastle at closer to an hour and a half. Liberal Democrat research found that patients waiting 4 or more weeks for a GP appointment are 3 times more common in rural England than in London, with 1 in 5 rural patients waiting 2 or more weeks. Berwick almost certainly reflects some of that pattern. A pensioner in good health who owns their home and can live with the healthcare trade-off gets low crime, a stunning setting, excellent train links, and costs that work within a pension budget. But anyone who needs regular specialist care or worries about emergency access should weigh that gap seriously before committing. Number 9. Hexham, Northumberland. This is where low crime and genuine quality of life start to overlap with something approaching pension affordability, because Hexham puts a hospital right in the center of town where Berwick could not. About 12,000 people live in this stone-built market town at the gateway to Hadrian's Wall country, and crimerate.co.uk records a crime rate of just 58 per thousand population, 21% below the England and Wales average, making it the 3rd safest small town in Northumberland. Hexham General Hospital handles a wide range of everyday healthcare needs right in town, and while it is not a major A&E trauma center, specialist care in Newcastle sits about 40 minutes away by road, a meaningful upgrade over Berwick's situation. Hexham Abbey dates to the 7th century, the weekly Tuesday market has run for centuries, the Queen's Hall Arts Centre hosts regular events, and independent shops line the streets rather than chains, all creating a community that feels established and real. House prices present the main hurdle, averaging between $240,000 and $280,000 depending on whether Mouse Price or Rightmove provides the figure, considerably higher than Durham or Carlisle. Rents across Northumberland average £661, and Hexham itself likely sits above that given how desirable the town has become. A mortgage-free pensioner here gets ultra-low crime, a hospital in town, Hadrian's Wall on the doorstep, the North Pennines stretching out beyond, and Northumberland's ONS Health Index score of 100.9, above the UK average of 100, with an access to green space score of 108.5. Every pensioner in England also receives a free bus pass at state pension age, which in Hexham connects to Newcastle and the wider region at zero cost, while the senior rail card at £30 a year knocks a third off rail fares. For someone budgeting every pound, those count as real infrastructure. Hexham suits pensioners who want beauty, safety, and community and will pay a bit more in housing to get them. Number 8. Llandudno, Conwy, North Wales. Victorian seaside architecture sweeps around a bay beneath the Great Orme headland, and about 20,000 people live here in a resort with an established retiree community that has been growing for decades. One of the most unexpected literary connections in Britain belongs to this town, because Alice Liddell, the real-life inspiration behind Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland, holidayed in Llandudno as a child, a link the town still celebrates. The venue Cymru Theatre hosts touring shows and local productions year-round. The Great Orme Tramway runs as the only cable-hauled tramway still operating on British public roads, and the promenade ranks among the finest in Wales. Flats average around £140,000, and house prices across Conwy average £206,000 from the ONS, with rents in the Conwy area averaging £775 per month, though one-beds come in lower at roughly £600 to £700. Bangor and the wider North Wales coastal strip have appeared in national safest places rankings, and Dyfed Powys stood out as the best-performing Welsh police force in ONS crime data. Two hospitals sit within 20 to 25 minutes, Gwynedd in Bangor and Llancaster in Bodolvidon, and while neither falls within Llandudno itself, the distances remain manageable. Welsh council tax averages about £1,954 at Band D, lower than England's £2,280, and the 25% single person's discount applies on top of that, with low-income pensioners able to claim council tax reduction. The seasonal factor matters. Llandudno is a resort, which means services scale back outside summer and winter can feel quiet, either appealing or isolating depending on temperament. The A55 Expressway and North Wales coastline connect to Chester in about an hour, and London Euston in roughly 3.5 hours, so the town is not cut off. On a pension with a small flat bought outright, the maths work. Number 7. Bangor, Gwynedd, North Wales. Where Llandudno offered charm, Bangor offers strategy, because the single most relevant fact about this town for a pensioner on a tight budget is that Gwynedd Hospital sits within Bangor itself with a full accident and emergency department. A full A&E hospital within walking distance is not a minor detail. Most small towns simply cannot offer it, and for a pensioner relying on the state pension, that proximity changes the entire risk profile of a location. About 18,000 people live in this compact cathedral and university city wedged between Snowdonia and the Menai Strait. Terraced houses average around £159,000 according to Rightmove, with Gwynedd-wide prices averaging £196,000 from the ONS. Rents across Gwynedd average £677 per month, and a one-bed flat in Bangor could run between £550 and £650. Bangor appeared in the CJ Bloor and Numbeo Top 20 Safest Places in the UK for 2024, and the university brings a younger population plus cultural energy through the Pontio Arts Centre, which hosts film, music, and theatre year-round. The Menai Strait delivers waterfront without waterfront prices. Snowdonia National Park opens up right behind the town, and the A55 connects to Chester and the motorway network, while the North Wales coastline reaches London Euston in roughly 3.5 hours. Welsh is the primary language for many residents in Gwynedd, heard daily in shops and community settings, which is part of the appeal for some and an adjustment for others. Buying a small flat for between $120,000 and $150,000 leaves you mortgage-free with a hospital in town, a university providing cultural life, Snowdonia as your backyard, and monthly costs that fit within the state pension. Council tax follows Welsh rates below England. Free prescriptions apply across Wales just as in Scotland, and the bus pass works. Bangor won't appear in glossy retirement supplements, and that's exactly why it stays affordable. Number 6. Lancaster, Lancashire. A castle, a canal, a university, a full hospital, and a West Coast mainline station, all in a single city that somehow remains properly affordable, which makes Lancaster something of an anomaly in northwest England. About 52,000 people live here, with Lancaster Castle rising above the town, the Lancaster Canal running through the center, and Lancaster University keeping the population young and the cultural calendar active. The West Coast Main Line puts London Euston about 2.5 hours away and Manchester roughly an hour, which is serious connectivity for a city this size in the northwest. Morecambe Bay and the Lake District both sit within easy reach. The Royal Lancaster Infirmary provides full NHS services including A&E, and ONS data from October 2025 shows average house prices of £199,000 in the Lancaster district, with rents averaging £786 per month and one-beds coming in around £550 to £650. Crime runs low for a northwest city, and the university town character tends to support community stability, though some areas of deprivation exist and the weather stays wet. Lancashire is Lancashire, and rain is part of the deal. For a mortgage-free pensioner in a Band A property with the single-person discount, council tax runs around £1,000 to £1,100 per year, energy between £100 and £125 per month, food between £200 and £240, water between £40 and £50, and transport stays minimal with the free bus pass and senior rail card. Total monthly outgoings land between £550 and £700, leaving £300 to £450 from the state pension. That works. Number 5. Derry, also known as Londonderry, Northern Ireland. A single statistic should reframe what you think about affordable, safe retirement in the UK. The Police Service of Northern Ireland recorded 95,968 crimes in 2024/25, producing a crime rate of just 50.6 per thousand population, the second lowest figure since the data series began in 1998/99. Measured against forces in England and Wales, that makes Northern Ireland the lowest crime police jurisdiction of any comparable territory. All 11 policing districts saw decreases across the board, confirmed by the PSNI annual report for the year ending March 2025. House prices in the Derry City and Strabane Council area average around £183,000 from the ONS, and one-bed rents likely fall between £450 and £550 per month. Northern Ireland uses domestic rates instead of council tax, and these typically come in lower than English equivalents. About 85,000 people live in Derry, the UK's second city in Northern Ireland, and the only remaining completely walled city in Ireland, with its 17th century walls fully intact and walkable. The 2013 UK City of Culture designation brought major investment in cultural infrastructure, including the Millennium Forum Theatre, the Peace Bridge, and upgraded public spaces. Altnagelvin Area Hospital provides major A&E services, and healthcare in Northern Ireland follows NHS principles through its own administrative structure. Remoteness from mainland Britain is the obvious drawback, with limited direct flights and long ferry or connection journeys to reach London or other English cities, turning family visits into a genuine logistical commitment. The financial picture is where Derry really stands out, because on the state pension of £998 per month, a one-bed flat at £500 with domestic rates, energy, food, and transport could produce total monthly expenses between £850 and £950. That is one of the very few renting scenarios on this entire list where the numbers could actually hold on the state pension alone. Combined with the lowest crime rate in the UK, a full hospital, genuine culture and history, and a community that takes neighborliness seriously, the case for Derry becomes hard to argue against on the data. Not convenient, not connected to London, but mathematically defensible. Number 4. Aberystwyth, Ceredigion, Mid-Wales. Relative to its size, Aberystwyth packs more cultural weight than any other town on this list, and it does it with 16,000 people. A university town and seaside resort on Cardigan Bay, Aberystwyth hosts the National Library of Wales, one of only 5 copyright libraries in Britain entitled to a copy of every book published in the UK. The university's Arts Centre runs film, music, and theatre programming that towns 5 times larger would struggle to match, and the seafront promenade, cliff railway, castle ruins, and surrounding Cambrian mountains create a setting that feels almost implausible at these prices. House prices in Ceredigion average £229,000 from the ONS. Rents average £704 per month, and a one-bed flat in Aberystwyth could come in between £500 and £650. Bromley General Hospital operates in the town itself with full A&E services, which for a town this remote counts as a major advantage. Welsh-free prescriptions apply, and council tax follows Welsh rates below England. Crime stays very low across the Dyfed Powys Police Force area, which covers Ceredigion and placed 13th nationally in England and Wales as the best-performing Welsh force. And then there is the honest part. Aberystwyth ranks among the most remote towns in this video, with no mainline rail connection. The Cambrian line to Shrewsbury takes about 2 hours through spectacular countryside, and onward connections to Birmingham and London push total journey time past 5 hours. Specialist healthcare beyond what Bronglae provides requires long drives to Carmarthen or Swansea, and internet in rural mid-Wales can run slower than urban areas, though the town centre itself gets reasonable coverage. A pensioner who values intellectual and cultural life, who loves the coast, who does not need to reach London or Manchester regularly, and who wants a community that feels genuinely interesting rather than just affordable, would find Aberystwyth hard to beat. The National Library alone makes this town culturally richer than most cities 10 times its size. The university keeps the population mixed in age, and the Welsh-speaking community gives it an identity that feels like somewhere specific rather than anywhere generic. On a pension and mortgage-free with total monthly costs between £550 and £700, the quality of life per pound spent here rivals anything on this list. Number 3. Carlisle, Cumberland, Northwest England. This is where the list shifts from interesting to practical, because Carlisle is one of the very few places in England where a pensioner on the state pension alone could realistically rent, not just own, and still make the numbers come close to working. About 75,000 people live in this city, recently renamed Cumberland, right where England meets Scotland. The Romans built here, Hadrian's Wall begins nearby, and the city centre holds a castle, a cathedral, a covered market, and the Tully House Museum, one of the best regional museums in the country. Rightmove puts average house prices at just £172,795, with estimated rents of £600 to £700 per month, making Carlisle one of the cheapest cities in England. A one-bed flat could come in between £450 and £550. The Cumberland Infirmary offers full A&E, providing comprehensive in-city healthcare with no driving required for emergency care. What transforms Carlisle from a remote northern outpost into something connected is the railway station, which operates as a major junction on the West Coast Main Line. London sits about 3.5 hours away, Glasgow roughly an hour, Edinburgh reachable in under 2, and the Settle Carlisle line runs south through the Dales. The Lake District is 30 minutes by car, and the Scottish borders are right there. Crime runs moderate for a city, well below major urban centres and calm for its size, while council tax in a Band A property with the single-person discount comes in under £100 per month, with low-income pensioners able to claim council tax reduction that could cover the entire bill. Historical flood risk in some areas remains a genuine consideration, with major events in 2005 and 2015, so checking flood maps before choosing a neighborhood is not optional. The city carries no glamour and nobody is writing coffee table books about its architecture, but for raw function, Carlisle arguably delivers the best value of any city in England for a pensioner. Running the renting numbers tells the story. A one-bed flat at £500 plus council tax at £85, energy at £100, water at £40, food at £220, transport at £30, and phone at £30 comes to about £1,005. The state pension pays £998, leaving you £7 short. Add pension credit and council tax reduction, and the numbers flip into surplus. For a mortgage-free pensioner, expenses drop to around £500 per month, leaving $498 in disposable income, enough for the occasional meal out, a birthday present for a grandchild, or a day trip to Edinburgh by train. That is breathing room. Number 2. Durham, County Durham, Northeast England. If a pensioner asked me where the data pointed and I could only name one place, the answer would bounce between Durham and the number 1 spot, because Durham is that strong. 50,000 people live in this UNESCO World Heritage Cathedral city, where Durham Cathedral, one of the finest Norman buildings in Europe, sits on a dramatic peninsula above the River Wear, alongside Durham Castle. The university, one of the oldest in England, feeds cultural vibrancy, events, concerts, and a mixed-age community into the city that keeps it feeling alive. Average house prices in County Durham land at around £143,000 from ONS data, and rents average £626 per month, with one-bed estimates between £500 and £600. The East Coast Main Line is what makes Durham exceptional among affordable cities. Newcastle reaches you in 15 minutes, London in 2.5 hours, and Edinburgh in an hour and a half. Connectivity that most people associate with commuter towns around London, not with the Northeast. Yet house prices here come in at less than half the national average. The University Hospital of North Durham provides full NHS services with comprehensive healthcare access, and the city centre is compact and walkable. which matters as mobility shifts over time, though the hills and cobbled streets near the cathedral can prove challenging. Crime at the County Durham level sits at moderate, with the city centre generally safe and the university and cathedral presence creating a settled atmosphere. Over 80% of properties in County Durham fall into council tax bands A to C, keeping actual bills well below headline Band D figures, and council tax support can reach 100% for the lowest income residents. Key advice: running the RetireWise program for over 50s, specifically highlighted the Northeast for retirement based on low costs and strong community connections, with ONS well-being data showing life satisfaction scores in the Northeast tracking closer to the national average than cost of living differences would suggest. A mortgage-free pensioner's monthly budget here runs like this: council tax band A with single discount at 85 to 95, energy at 100 to 120, water at 40 to 50, food at 200 to 230, and transport minimal with the free bus pass and Newcastle 15 minutes by train. That totals roughly £520 to £590 per month, leaving over £400 from the state pension as genuine disposable income in a UNESCO World Heritage City, 15 minutes from a major regional capital, 2.5 hours from London. £3,651 per month is what the ONS records as average rent in Kensington and Chelsea. County Durham's average is 626. That is a ratio of nearly 6 to 1, meaning a pensioner in Durham holds roughly 6 times the purchasing power of someone trying to survive in West London. The university prevents the city from stagnating, the cathedral gives it grandeur, the East Coast Main Line gives it connectivity, and the price gives it access. And now, we reach the one town in the United Kingdom where the data converges most powerfully, a town with the lowest average rents in the entire country, a brand new hospital, Scotland's oldest working theatre, rail links to Glasgow and Carlisle, free personal care for over 65s, free prescriptions, council tax rates well below England, and crime figures among the lowest in Scotland. Number 1. Dumfries, and Galloway, Scotland. This is the single best value town in the United Kingdom for a pensioner living on the state pension alone. About 37,000 people live in Dumfries, a town on the River Nith in southwest Scotland that does not trend on social media, does not appear in glossy retirement supplements, and carries zero fashionable status in London-centric media. That is exactly why it works. The headline number comes first. Average monthly rent in Dumfries and Galloway is £549 according to the ONS, and that is the lowest average rent of any local authority area in the United Kingdom, lower than any area in England, lower than any area in Wales, lower than every other area in Scotland. £549. Set that against Kensington and Chelsea at £3,651, and the gap reaches a factor of 6.6, a difference of 565%, which is not a rounding error. It is a completely different economic universe. Average house prices sit at around £164,000 from ONS December 2025 data, with livable properties available well under £150,000 and in some cases, well under £100,000. Dumfries and Galloway Royal Infirmary was rebuilt in 2017, operating as a modern, fully equipped hospital with A&E services. Not a crumbling Victorian facility, but a 21st century building designed to serve this region. For a pensioner, having a new hospital in town is not a bonus, it is the foundation that everything else rests on. Scotland's healthcare advantages stack further. Free personal care for over 65s covers help with daily tasks like washing, dressing, and eating, while free prescriptions apply to everyone regardless of age or income. For a pensioner managing multiple conditions, prescription savings alone can reach hundreds of pounds per year compared to England's charges. Scottish council tax averages around £1,372 at Band D, compared to £2,280 in England, £900 less per year at the headline rate, with single-person Band A rates even lower. Dumfries and Galloway council rates sit among the lowest in Scotland. Dumfries and Galloway consistently ranks among Scotland's safest areas, and Scotland overall recorded total crime at one of the lowest levels since the 1970s, 51% below its 1991 peak, with a national rate of 54.5 per thousand. Dumfries and Galloway sits around 58 per thousand, below the Scottish average and well below most English force areas. Scotland's oldest working theatre, the Theatre Royal, operates in Dumfries, and Robert Burns spent his final years in the town, where his house and mausoleum remain as landmarks. The River Nith provides walking routes through the center, and Galloway Forest Park, the largest forest park in Britain, sits nearby with its designation as an international dark sky park, one of the few places in Europe where the Milky Way is visible to the naked eye. A railway station connects Dumfries to Glasgow in about an hour and a half, and to Carlisle in about 30 minutes, linking to the West Coast Main Line and reaching London via Carlisle in roughly 4 hours. Not East Coast Main Line speed, but functional. The full budget for a renting pensioner in Dumfries works out like this. A one-bed flat at approximately £450 to £500 per month, council tax band A with single-person discount estimated at 60 to 75, energy at 100 to 120, water at 35 to 45, food at 200 to 230, transport at 20 to 30 with the free bus pass covering most local journeys, and phone plus broadband at 30 to 35. Total estimated monthly costs land between £895 and £1,035, against state pension income of £998 per month. For the first time on this entire list, the maths work for a renting pensioner without pension credit. The margin is razor thin, and there is no luxury built into these numbers, but it balances. From April 2026, when the state pension rises to roughly £1,045 per month, the margin widens into something approaching survivable, and adding pension credit, which tops up to £984 per week and unlocks council tax reduction among other benefits, transforms the picture into genuine financial stability. A mortgage-free pensioner in Dumfries faces monthly costs of around £450 to £550, leaving £450 to £550 from the state pension as disposable income, enough for a social life, occasional treats, home maintenance, and actually living rather than just getting by. In practice, that looks like waking up in a quiet town on a Scottish river, walking to the local shop for a paper, using the bus pass for free travel around town, visiting a modern hospital if needed, catching a show at a theater that predates most English ones, driving 30 minutes to one of Europe's best dark sky reserves, or taking a 90-minute train to Glasgow. Rent paid, council tax lower than almost anywhere in Britain, prescriptions free, personal care free if ever needed, bus pass working across Scotland, heating manageable in a well-insulated flat, and money still left for food, a modest social life, and the occasional train to see family. That is retirement on the state pension alone, not in theory, in practice, in Dumfries. Subscribe for deeper dives into specific regions, full budget breakdowns for different pension scenarios, and investigations into which towns are getting more expensive and which ones are still flying under the radar. Thanks for watching.